Today we are going to talk about transitioning from standing to sitting and some different cues that you can give your kiddo if they are nonverbal or struggling with that transition. This is specifically for kiddos who require assistance for transitioning from sitting to standing, standing to sitting, walking, things like that. So for more of my significantly impacted kiddos that need assistance with walking. Stay tuned. It's just me, and since I don't have any kiddos, I am using this super adorable baby doll to help demonstrate my point. So essentially, when you are supporting a kiddo in standing, it's going to look a little bit different than me supporting a baby doll in standing, but I think that it can help give you guys some ideas on some different cues that you can give kiddos in order to transition safely from a supported standing position into a sitting position, either independently or supported. So essentially, if you are supporting a kiddo in standing, you can do it a couple of different ways. If they're able to hold their body upright, you can kind of position their feet either in between your knees. If you can see me, I'm sitting on my heels. You can also sit crisscross applesauce and help support them. I kind of like to sit on my knees, and then I can use my hands and my knees to kind of help support them in standing. Hopefully your kiddo has a little bit more head control than this little babe does. But sometimes what you can find is that kiddos can transition from sitting to standing more easily and then maintain a supported standing position, but they have a harder time controlling their momentum going from standing to sitting. And a lot of times that's because it's a different type of muscle contraction. So going from sitting to standing, that's a concentric type of contraction. And basically what that means is it's a kind of a quick force. And when they go from standing to sitting, that is more of an eccentric contraction, or essentially a slow, controlled contraction. Going from standing to sitting, gravity is pushing you down towards the ground, and so your muscles have to control both the momentum of your body and the momentum of gravity on your body. So it can be a lot harder for kiddos to complete this activity versus going from a sit to stand activity. So some things that you can do in order to cue them, especially if they're nonverbal, and you're helping support them into standing, you can cue them by giving them tactile cues behind the knee. So you're going to just give them cues behind the knee, and then you can use verbal cues as well. So bend your knees, or time to sit, and then you can give them a force backwards. So essentially you have your hands on the front of their hips, and you're bringing their butt back. Typically when you bring their butt back, they are going to bend their knees because their hips are flexing, which then can increase more motor planning, more understanding of what the rest of their body is supposed to do in order to get down to the ground. Now sometimes you do have to give a backwards force and a little bit of a forwards force gently on the knee to help them understand that, okay, this is the position I want you in. And what you might have to do as well is, especially if your kiddo has a visual impairment, going from standing all the way to the ground can seem super scary to them. So what you're gonna wanna do is go from standing to a chair and use different ranges so that you're practicing and they're getting more comfortable with how to do that, but it's not quite as difficult. Going from standing all the way to sitting on the floor can be more difficult than going from standing to sitting in a chair, standing to sitting on a stool, and then standing to sitting on the ground. Because when you go from standing to sitting on the ground, you're using that full range of your knee, so it's a lot harder than it would be to just use partial ranges of your knee. My kiddo, and they're struggling, right? So I'm kind of supporting their feet with my knees, and then I'm supporting their hips with my hands, giving them a little bit of an anterior or forward force. And then I want them to sit down. I'm gonna say, okay, time to sit. I'm gonna bring them a backwards force through their hips, and then I'm gonna have them sit right on my knees. So if you can see that, so I'm supporting their ankles and their hips, giving a backwards force, and they're gonna sit down on my knee. Now, I'm going to practice that a couple times. This is quite a small range of motion. And then once the kiddo is learning how to do that and it's going a little bit smoothly, I'm going to switch how I'm sitting. So I'm a little bit backward back here. So it's going to be a little bit harder to hold the babes in standing, but then I'm going to bring them backwards first. Okay, bend at your knees, and then we're going to go into, ideally what you would want them to do is sit in a supported toddler squat. So their butt is on the ground, but their knees are still bent, because what you can do is you can transition from this position back into standing fairly easily. So again, if they're standing, you're supporting them here, you're going to bring a force backwards, and their bottom is going to go on the ground. They're going to be in the supported toddler squat position, and then they can go back into standing. And so you're going to practice this. Maybe the kiddo has a musical toy that they like, so you can kind of support them. So, okay, we have to turn music on, play music. So they hit that, and then they go into supported standing to dance. And if you dance, make sure that you're giving them some mobility at their hips so that they can learn that they're not just one big statue, that their joints actually move. They just aren't exactly sure how to use that yet. So then when the song is off, or you stop it to make them to do another repetition, again, you're going to bring a backwards force at their hips. Their hips are going to come down, their knees are going to stay bent, and they're going to be in this supported toddler squat. Reach, play the music, stand back up. And in order to stand back up, you have to bring their body over, and then you're going to extend their hips upwards. So that is essentially different cues that you can utilize in order to assist your kiddo to go from standing to sitting safely, and utilize different heights of surfaces to increase their understanding. You can also encourage them, so if they're standing, you can encourage them to kind of reach and touch with their hands a surface so that they understand, like, okay, something is back there. I'm safe. I'm able to sit down safely. Tap the back of their knee, time to sit, bend your knees, and then bring a backwards force at their hips so that they can sit down and get their bottom there. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. I hope that this is helpful, even though I don't have a real kiddo to show these activities on with you guys.